Welcome to the Dacus Report, hosted by Pacific Justice Institute founder and president Brad Dacus. For 25 years, PJI has counseled, represented, and defended people whose religious freedoms, parental rights, or sanctity of life have been obstructed or violated, all free of charge. We leave no one behind and level the playing field for Americans as they are subjected to the tyranny of the powerful. Now, here's Brad Dacus.
Welcome to Brad Dacus Live. I'm Brad Dacus, president and founder of the Pacific Justice Institute. On today's show, we're going to talk about a number of controversial but very important topics impacting you, your family, your community, your church. And help me do that today, we have with us here attorney Kurt English. Kurt, I always love having you on this show.
Great to be here, Brad.
Yeah, you're an attorney, but you're also someone who's very politically savvy, and you're also a brother in Christ. So it's always a great, interesting conversation as we're able to touch on different topics.
Indeed, and we get to explore a lot of the legal issues and the related issues. There's an election in Virginia, April 21st, Tuesday. Tell us about that.
Which is today.
Yeah, tell us about that.
Yeah, it's a real important election, Kurt, and I know you've been watching it. If it's on the ballot, the Democrats are trying to basically make it so that Virginia has all Democrat congressmen and only one Republican.
10 out of 11.
10 out of 11, which doesn't reflect the politics of Virginia.
51% Democrat vote in the last election, 46% Republican.
Yeah. So this is like gerrymandering on steroids. And the people are going to the polls to vote on this. And really, I think that the way people should look at this is, especially if they're a Republican, that effectively, if the election goes towards the mega gerrymandering them to silence their voice, this will be the last election that's relevant to them, at least in terms of congressional districts.
Well, until the redistricting after the 2030 census.
Yeah. So they're going to be truncated. I think every single person who thinks that they're going to be silenced should have every incentive to go to the polls today and vote. The stakes are simply too high for integrity there in Virginia.
Well, we've talked about this on the show before. Barna, the researcher, says that 1/3 of Christians don't vote. If every Christian voted, many of the things that you're suing about or protecting people at Pacific Justice Institute wouldn't be controversies because they wouldn't be happening.
Right.
And if Republicans want representation in Congress, they had better get out and vote today in Virginia and vote against the redistricting.
Yeah.
Because I think the courts will consider this a political question, like in California, like in Texas, like in Florida, and they will not overturn the political branch's districting.
Well,
that's my prediction.
Yeah, like all of Massachusetts, it's all Democrat. Every congressional district in Massachusetts has a Democrat congressman, even though over 1/3, maybe up to 40%, are actually Republican.
Just like California. What they're trying to do in California with Proposition 50 is to only have 5 realistic Republican seats and maybe 47 or 48, whatever the number is, the rest Democrat, in a state where no party has the majority of registered voters. And the Democrats are in the 40s and the Republicans are about 15 points behind, but independents are a significant number as well. And so there's no justification for that on a voter registration basis, so it's a political issue. Mm-hmm. So if Republicans want to protect themselves, if Christians want to protect themselves from secular progressives, they better get involved in politics. They better try to take power away from them. And this is a power struggle, Brad.
Now, when you look at the justification on the other side, they say, well, we're doing this because Texas and 2 other states redid their redistricting. And so because of their gerrymandering, that's why we're doing it. But the reality is, the rebuttal to that is, wait a minute. Even then, the stats are that the blue states still have greater gerrymandering than the red states, even after you take into consideration the changes in Texas. And I think it's a couple other states. Even just at that point, there's still more gerrymandering in favor of the Democrats nationwide than there is Republicans. So there really is no justification for them continuing to expand gerrymandering the way they are in states like California and hopefully not Virginia.
Well, and the Republicans in Indiana were very weak and they refused to do it. They said, well, that's not a principled thing to do. Well, I guess you can be principled as you're taken into slavery or serfdom, can't you? I mean, if you don't fight for your rights, you're not going to have any.
And those are rhinos in Indiana, I understand, right? And I understand
They're weak. They're just very weak.
Yeah, and there was rumors that there was a politician behind that, but anyway, Mike Pence supposedly was, behind that, sort of the counter to the Trump kind of deal.
Well, he's been very hostile to Trump since he was vice president.
He's had sour grapes. He's had sour grapes since he wasn't, since he basically embraced the election results with a big hug from Nancy Pelosi. He's had sour grapes against the Trump administration, against the Republicans overall. And I think that his behind the scenes in Indiana, working with the rhinos, is what caused that to happen. But this is all speculation.
Well, but Brad, Mike Pence is a nice Christian man personally. His wife is a nice person.
Yes.
But he is a man of weak constitution. When he was the governor of Indiana, there was a bill to take away the protected class status of homosexuals. And there was the usual liberal outcry, and he cowered in weakness and said, well, all right, I'll veto this bill. We'll do something else now. And he did not implement his own principles. And what do we call a man who's too weak to implement his own principles? Coward.
Yeah.
So in my view, Mike Pence is a coward.
Yeah, and that's been unfortunate.
And it's not a personal attack on him, as I'd be a wonderful neighbor. I just don't trust him with any power to have any say-so over my life.
Right. I'm glad you make that distinction. That's important. But so Indiana didn't go the right way. You had rhinos with Mike Pence allegedly working behind the scenes. That's allegedly. So that's where we're at. But as far as how you think it's going to turn out in Virginia today, do you think that enough people with convictions are going to go to the polls to say, we are not in favor of this outrageous gerrymandering and silencing of the voice of over half of the Virginians?
If everyone watching this program in Virginia goes to the polls today and votes against the reapportionment, it's going to be very close. I can tell you a story about close votes. In Newport Beach, there was a fellow named Christopher Cox that was one of 17 candidates that ran for the Republican primary in an open seat in 1988, Republican district at the time.
Yeah, I remember Christopher Cox. Yeah.
So USC, JD, MBA from Harvard, smart guy, started a company with his dad to translate Pravda in the 80s from Russian to English and sold it to libraries and think tanks and universities and whatnot. So a very enterprising guy. And he ran against some rhinos and some unprincipled people, and it was a free-for-all with 17 candidates. And I walked precincts for him. And I got my friends in law school to walk precincts for him. And I got my friends from USC to walk precincts for him. And they got people. We had 50 precinct walkers. The Orange County Young Republicans had dozens of precinct walkers that we all rallied. Together, the people that I knew walked probably 100 precincts. He won by 1,200 votes. Our votes that we probably got out.
Yeah.
He was the deciding vote to elect Newt Gingrich into the leadership of the Republican caucus in the late 80s, early 90s, when they were a minority. And then in 1994, the Republicans took over and Newt Gingrich became the speaker. All because of one vote, Chris Cox's vote.
You need to state up front you're Christians. If you don't say you're a Christian, say, I don't agree with this, or that may or may not work, because then you have to prove that the other person knew that you were a Christian and were treating you that way and discriminating against you because of your Christian faith, which you may be able to do if there's other employees who are on your side that are willing to validate that, yeah, this is why they treated them that way. So just state it up front so it's indisputed that they know who you are and what you believe and the fact that you're a Christian and with Christian beliefs, and that's why you're saying this. And then do not be threatening. Keep that smile on your face, but be very firm in your question. So do you believe when you say pride, do you take pride in little children having body parts cut off and distort their gender. Just real quick, don't go into elaboration. And if they decide to not serve you and deny you services, contact Pacific Justice Institute. We want to bring this kind of outright second tier serving of people to a halt. There's no place for this in the United States. What say you?
Now, does Pacific Justice Institute charge someone for this legal representation if they get into the situation?
Yeah, we do not charge. So there's nothing out of their pocket. We're taking on these cases. And I want to see June changed to
Christian Celebration Month.
Yeah, yeah, or Pro Family Month. But whatever the case, it shouldn't be a month that is committed to a cause that is
Evil
and openly hateful towards people who believe differently, and trying to openly silence and destroy and discriminate against people who believe differently, which is what the radical LGBT cause is all about.
That's the problem with the homosexual lobby. At first it was leave us alone and let us do in private what we want. Then it was we want to be married too. And now it's you can't criticize us and you can't have your point of view. You see where this has gone.
Yeah, you can't
it's
have
gone from you must tolerate us to we won't tolerate you.
Yeah, and allow you to have your beliefs.
And there's a
right.
book, and I forgot who the author is. You might know. It's called The New Tolerance, which is basically mocking the term tolerance, where it's not tolerant at all.
Yeah.
I was at an event with Josh McDowell. Do you know him?
Oh, yes.
And he said, people have the wrong definition of tolerance that's being taught in school now. And he said, one student told me, well, there's your truth and my truth. He says, no, truth means what it means. It means there's a truth, the truth.
Otherwise, it's opinion.
Yes.
And perception, but not truth.
Yes.
You're absolutely right.
Well, my son had that problem even at a Christian school once upon a time. He was taught by a teacher, facts are things you can prove. And so I confronted the principal. I said, is it a fact that Jesus died? Or do you believe Jesus died and rose again by faith, as it says in Romans 1:17? Said it's the most provable event in human history, according to the rules of evidence. But some people say it can't be proven. What about the existence of God? The existence of God, you see the evidence, and the heavens scream the existence of God. But it takes more faith to not believe that God exists than to believe that God exists. And so the liberals are trying to change the definitions of terms to confuse people. I told him, I said, do you believe that Jesus died and rose to the dead? And that's truth. Yeah. So does it matter whether you can prove it or not? If it's truth is what actually happens. It's the old story. If the tree falls in the forest and no one hears it, did it still make a noise? The answer is yes, it did.
Right. Good point. Well, folks, when we return, we're going to talk about some more issues and cases and your rights right after this.
At PJI, we exist to serve everyone in need of counsel, representation, and defense of their religious liberties, parental rights, and the sanctity of life. We don't take cases based on how high profile they are. We are workhorses, not show horses. Keep current on PJI's work on all the legal challenges we face on a daily basis by signing up for our Legal Insider email newsletter at pji.org. Now, back to the Dacus Report.
Welcome back. And folks, if you'd like to keep up with the work of Pacific Justice Institute, we have over 130 cases in active litigation. Just go to our website, especially if you're a prayer warrior. We love prayer support, pji.org. In fact, if you'd like to text PJI, that's the easiest way to do it, actually. Just text PJI to the number 71541.
So if Christians don't vote, this is the kind of stuff you get governed by right here.
That's true.
Here's an example.
And we have those people in the state legislature in California. They're in New York, they're in Oregon, Washington, Illinois, the Northeast, and we'll see what happens. But people need to speak up and let their voice be heard. Boys and girls sports. A person named A.B. Hernandez. I guess this is a high school boy in Jurupa Valley, California, and was pretending to be a girl or personify themselves, say, I'm a girl, even though they're really a boy. and we're trying to compete in girls track and field events and girls volleyball. What happened?
What's sad about that is, of course, he won because he was a boy.
He won the athletic
Yes.
competition.
And so there were girls that were denied those championships because they were competing against a boy. And you may say, well, so what? No, it is a big deal. Because if you can put on your resume that you've won these championships, you might get a college scholarship as a girl. And under Title IX, properly administered, the girls get the same number of athletic scholarships. So this girl could lose money because of this.
Because of this boy.
Yes. And also, if you compete, look at today's youth sports. Many of our parents and grandparents know this. Youth sports is almost a business today. It's so competitive and there's so much preparation. It's not like when we were kids, when you just show up in the season, you'd play for fun. The people who win things now are dedicated to it, way more dedicated than most kids were when we were kids. And so for a girl who may have been competing in track and field for years to be denied a high school championship, there's no professional women's track and field. I mean, maybe she can get a college scholarship. Maybe she can compete in college. That's it, Brad.
Yeah.
You're taking away the pinnacle of most athletes' opportunities because typically 1 in 10 or less high school athletes become college athletes, maybe 1 in 50. So this may be it for this girl. She may be able to compete and win a championship in high school, but maybe not in college. So they've taken that pinnacle of her striving away from her by letting a boy compete against her.
Now, I understand the President of the United States, President Donald Trump, on February 5th of this year.
Last year,
thank you, issued an executive order keeping men out of women's sports. That was the
and California is ignoring it, and blue states are just ignoring it.
Okay, what's the consequences if
Well,
they ignore it?
In July of 2025, the federal government, the DOJ opened in May, they opened a Title IX probe against California, the California Interscholastic Foundation, which operates these high school tournaments. And then when they collected that information on July 9th, 2025, 9 months ago, the Civil Rights Department of the Justice, DOJ, the Civil Rights Division, rather, which is headed by Harmeet Dillon, a San Francisco attorney, filed a lawsuit against the California Department of Education, the California Interscholastic Foundation, and that case is United States versus CIF and versus California DOE to enforce Title IX to prevent these girls from being subjected to unfair competition.
So bottom line, lawsuit was filed to stop this discrimination against females.
And it's still ongoing.
And it's also.
But a year later, A.B. Hernandez is still competing against girls now as a senior in high school. And I've got a personal message, and I don't really care if anyone agrees or likes it. If you're a boy and you compete against a girl, you're a sissy, a coward, and I have zero respect for you. Zero respect.
Yeah,
you are an evil. You're engaging in evil. God can redeem anybody, but you are engaging in evil behavior, and there's no achievement when you compete against girls.
You know, the majority of adolescents, which is what we're talking about here, who claim to have gender identity dysphoria or be trans, whatever, the majority are actually not really people with actually that dysphoria. They don't really see themselves purely as the opposite sex. They may want to be, may be comfortable personifying it, but they really don't have that dysphoria. That was not me. That was talking to an expert on the subject who gave me that information. But let's just say that they actually did
let's talk about that for a second. When we were kids, there were girls who were tomboys.
Yeah.
Every one of them ended up dressing in dresses, marrying a guy, having children, and being a normal woman. Just because you're a tomboy when you're 10 doesn't mean that you have any same-sex attraction.
Yeah, exactly. So, but let's just say there was one that had this real strong mental condition where they were actually totally gender confused. Even in that situation, that male knows darn well that he has a advantage, a biological, physical advantage, his muscle, skeletal structure. He knows that. He knows his body is different than females. Even though he has that dysphoria, he still knows that. He still knows what he's doing is not fair for the opposite sex. I mean, so I agree with you. I see no moral justification for allowing this or excusing it, even for those who actually have, in the minority, real gender genuine confusion. What say you?
In Western civilization, there is an ethic to protect women. Any boy who competes against women, and there have been stories about this, where the woman gets injured. I mean, if I was the parents, I'd be suing.
I know one girl playing volleyball,
Yeah,
and the boy was on the other side, and he said he was a female, so he went and spiked it
right into her face.
And has cost her permanent damage, neurological brain issues.
And she had to retire from playing volleyball.
Yeah. And what people need to understand, they say, well, it's volleyball. Whoa. So the skull of a male is almost twice as thick as the skull of a female.
Is that true? I didn't know that. Okay.
People don't know this.
Well, folks, we learned some biology today, too.
Also, the brain of a male is also larger than the brain of a female. And the brain of a male functions generally on the left side, unless there's an injury in the female on the right side. Gray matter, white matter.
That either.
Different gray matter, white matter ratios. More white matter in the male
Maybe it's
brain.
a little different if you're left-handed, but yes.
Yeah, then everything's, yeah, exactly. Very different. Left hand is very different because both sides function. But anyway, differently. But the point is that there is a biological, not just advantage in terms of competition, but also in terms of safety.
Yes.
Because the female spiking it will not spike it as hard, and therefore the fact that the female has a thinner skull is not going to be as at risk, as opposed to males playing against males, where that higher force and power, male are going to be more shielded with a thicker skull, not the female. This is just basic safety and common sense. And our girls are paying the price for it, not just in terms of scholarships, but also in terms of their safety.
Injuries.
And just imagine your 6-year-old daughter, say you have a 6-year-old daughter, 5-year-old daughter, she says, I want to be a gymnast and I want to compete. I want to be a track person. I want to run. And spend all my time doing this. And if you know at the end of the day that she's a very good chance she's going to be competing with a male and have no shot, no chance, no hope. I mean, could you really encourage your daughter to do that?
Why bother? You know how much
bother?
Parents spend in time and money on their kids' events. Why bother?
Yeah, they have no future in terms of sports and athletics if there's a reasonable risk of a male. People say, well, that's just 1 or 2 cases. No, this has become all too common, especially in those states that have yet to pass laws. We at Pacific Justice Institute, we work with 6 states to pass laws saying boys cannot compete in girls' sports. We got it in 6 states. Now the Supreme Court is pending for the Supreme Court. West Virginia and Idaho, 2 states we work with to do that. And I think the Supreme Court is going to bring this issue to a completion and say, not only can states have the right to pass laws protecting girls and girls' sports, but that they must, because Title IX of federal statute demands it. What say you? Agree.
Your legal analysis was, as they say, on all fours, right?
Okay, good. Well, I'm glad you agree because you're an attorney too. So that's, I appreciate that.
One last thing before we go, watch for the racial gerrymandering Supreme Court case to come out soon. And my prediction is that they will ban racial gerrymandering in drawing districts. That will result in 10 to 20 new Republican seats in Congress this fall.
This fall?
Yeah, I think they'll say right now.
So, and if they do, we're talking about how many states having to do some redistricting then?
20.
About 20.
10, 20.
Wow. That's great. We shouldn't have racism. And when it comes to anything, including congressional districts, you're assuming what? That
no, they would draw a black seat or a Hispanic seat intentionally.
Just so they say, see, we gave them their seat or this seat. No, we're individuals, you're human beings. And it shouldn't be based on race. And you shouldn't assume someone's going to have a certain political persuasion just because of their race.
Well, there are many black conservatives who are deeply offended by that, to say, what do you mean I can't get an ID because I'm black, or a woman saying I'm too stupid to get an ID if you pass voter ID.
If you vote, it's another real racist. So we got some interesting challenges. We're going to watch that, and we'll see when that comes down. But if they do, it's going to be sooner rather than later because the time clock's ticking with the midterm election. Kurt English, thank you so much for being on the show. I look forward to our next time to visit.
PJI.org.
PJI.org. Appreciate that. All right, folks. So there you have it. It's our God-given freedoms we're talking about. Now let's choose to keep them. I'm Brad Dacus, president and founder of the Pacific Justice Institute. Let's continue the fight for your freedoms.
We would love the opportunity to continue to serve you. Just visit pji.org and click the Legal Insider button to sign up for our email newsletter. At PJI, we help individual employees, employers, business owners, pastors, students, citizens of every stripe through our practical resources, counsel, representation, and defense, all free of charge at pji.org. PJI is an island of stability and assurance in our ever-churning sea of legal and societal chaos. We are here for you.
So, folks, just remember, it's our God-given freedoms we're talking about. Now, let's choose to keep them. I'm Brad Dacus, president of the Pacific Justice Institute. Let's continue the fight for your freedoms.